Actually, I'd like, once again, just really quickly, each of our authors quickly reintroduce themselves, give their name, please.
I'm Jerry Jameson, known to you as Honorable Mention.
I'm Sarah Wilczynska, the one with probably the hardest last name. And I go by she, her pronouns.
David Schmidt, I'm the author of that bummer of a story you just heard.
David Hogan, and I wrote Love Too Soon.
Thank you very much. Now, does anyone have any questions for our authors? Go ahead, don't be shy. Yes.
I'd like to ask you about whether it's, have you written in the voice of another gender before, the opposite voice, and is this a new one for you?
Well, in my novels, yes, in my novels, yes, my last novel was written from different points of view. 3 women, 3 men. It's an interesting question because this story I originally wrote from a man's point of view, and it didn't quite work. And when I switched it, it kind of clicked, and I kind of found your voice. So that's a good question.
Really quickly, has everyone heard that question? Should I repeat it? The question was basically, have you written in the voice of another gender before? And I'm going to go ahead and come down here and bring the microphone with me. But are there other questions? Go ahead, I'll come to you. Questions for our authors?
I have a question. This is for Schmitty boy over there. Is your story set in the United States, would you say?
Yeah, it's the idea is that it's some form of North America, several centuries in the future. So I'll give you kind of the very short backstory of this world, which I have other stories set in this same dystopian future. The idea is this future North America has walled itself off from the outside world, and they realize that they need someone to do the crap jobs. There's 2 questions that every society has to wrestle with. And one is, who's going to do the jobs that nobody really wants to do, and societies often create some underclass to do them. And then the other question is, what the hell do we do with teenagers? Because they're just full of hormones and they're all distracted, they don't even really focus in school. So this future society solves one problem with the other, and they put their own youth to work for 3 years. And then after you get out of the log, then you appreciate that cushy life that you have, is the idea. But it becomes more and more dystopian and goes from being sort of a functional meritocracy where everyone earns their keep in society to becoming a very brutal place where then those who suffered the most abuse inside the log then become guards in the log, and they perpetuate that abuse on the next generations. So it's but yeah, meditation on the way that we exploit ourselves as a society in one way or another, no matter which class we're exploiting.
Does anyone else have a question?
I have a question up here.
Excellent.
This is for Sarah. I'm curious about whether you wrote your story during the pandemic and whether your kind of pandemic boredom kind of played into the main character's fantastical dragon imagination, fantasy, and kind of what the timeline was like of writing that and the plot of your story.
Yeah, actually I wrote it at the very beginning of the pandemic, so probably April 2020. We used to live with my spouse on the East Coast in New York, and the inspiration for the story was a prompt from my writing mentor, who just told me to look for a painting that I really like and write a story based on that painting. And I looked for an Edward Hopper painting. This particular one I chose was called The Mansard Roof, and it just depicts this like old house with an orange tree in front of it, and the windows are open, and like you kind of see that there's no one there, and you just wonder what happens. And it was like 1 month into the pandemic, so this set the background of the story. And another piece of inspiration was that for my spouse's birthday, we couldn't celebrate because it was the first month of the lockdown, so we ordered online dragon costumes. And we attended all work meetings, corporate hardcore work meetings in dragon masks. Super happy. And then we walked for a short walk in the neighborhood, and all the kids, like there weren't many people on the street, but the ones that there were, all the kids, like their eyes went so big, and they were like, oh my god, a dragon. And I saw how much like happiness and joy it can bring in such like stressful times. So hence the other part.
I have a question for our authors, if each of you would be willing to answer this one. I know that many of us have the fantasy of the author's life, right, where you sit in a cafe all day, just waiting in front of your laptop for inspiration to strike. Then you hammer out the entire thing that you're going to write in one go, send it off the other, wait for the checks to come in, right? That's how it really works, right? Yeah. If each of you could tell me what your routine is, what your discipline is for writing, I think that'd be beneficial.
Well, I did exactly what you just explained.
Excellent.
I'm a lifetime copywriter, advertising copywriter. I own an advertising agency, and it's a national advertising agency, and I just happen to do the copy for it. And only in my most recent years did I start doing creative writing, because I'm used to writing, you have 138 words, and it has to say every word that the client wants in it. So creativity, all the adjectives are gone, and then lawyers strip out anything else that's left. But the short story I did, the original fiction, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, had an idea, I went out to the living room, I wrote for 3 hours, I closed up my computer, and this was probably 3 years ago, and I never read it again until I got this thing about this contest. I had never read it one more time again. I'd forgotten about it completely. And it's the only short story I've ever written. So I really write novels, and I write heavily researched true crime, and I have a series of like 15 mysteries on top of that are more short form, but they're all 100,000 words. But this was the only time I did this thing, and I wrote it, and I sent it in unedited to the thing. So it was kind of exciting. It was really that thing you said, you just get the inspiration and you do it. All the other books, none of that's true.
I guess I'm still learning my discipline and what works for me. This was the first story that I wrote, creative fiction, and it was 2 years ago. And I think a big part of it is actually working with a mentor, with a coach. I work with I write originally in Polish, and then I work with a translator, and I work with a Polish coach who's fantastic, and I think a lot of discipline and process and framework actually comes from her, and I really appreciate it. One thing that I did notice is that I'm like super hypersensitive to distractions, and once like I do enjoy writing, but also it's a tedious process, and it's like a tiring process for me. So like I procrastinate, and I find all the reasons not to, and of course like my kitchen is the cleanest when I have to write, and so on and so forth. So it's just like knowing that I will have the next class, the next coaching session, and that I have to like finish something, having a deadline is super helpful. And then when I sit down to write, really turning off everything, like everything. So yeah, I wish, I sometimes try to write in like coffee shops and whatnot, but usually it's like, all this chatter, I can't. So boringly, I just like sit at my sofa and everything is turned off.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on the procrastination. I find it's easiest to write when you're supposed to be doing something more important, like working your day job, which I've had most of my life, and And this story I actually started writing it when I was a junior high substitute teacher. And it was a really bad day, and a kid tried to punch me in the face at one point on that day. And I was just like, this kid could be put to use. This kid should not be in school. And then this beautiful idea of the log was born. But I always try to keep, I carry an ass book on me, little notebook to jot down things. And so the ass book's very handy because inspiration usually strikes when you're not sitting down to write, you're doing something else. So I try to do as much other things as possible, because if I sit down to write, I usually don't get any writing done. But if my brain's distracted with something else, then that's when the inspiration comes and the ideas come. But when it's a writing day, then I'm cleaning my kitchen, then I'm doing my taxes, doing the other important things that I should not be doing then. So you just need enough important things that you have one to distract you from the other, and eventually they all get done, hopefully.
I agree totally. If I have something to write, it's good if I have something else to do, like my tax, something important, so I will get that done. I don't know if other people write like this. I really enjoy rewriting and editing my own work. So at the beginning, I am slogging through that first draft, and it takes forever, and I'm full of distractions, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm just fighting to get it through. And then the further I get along, the more the story comes together and the structure falls together and the editing comes together. I really enjoy that, and at that point I find I can get more in the zone and spend a lot of time, and I can't wait to get back. But that takes a long time to get to that point. I'm talking more about a novel than a short story here, but it takes a long time to get to that point, but once I get to it, I love it. That's great.
Hello, congratulations everyone. Often people have ideas, but the fact that you guys, in your own process, make it happen and write and put it out there and share your magic with us is amazing, so congratulations to the four of you. And the question is, I'm curious how you guys experience hearing your words in a different voice. I think these guys that read the stories were fantastic. I don't know if you chose who was going to read it, but it must be I'd like to hear your thoughts on what the experience is of hearing your words in another voice.
I'll start and we'll go down the line. This is actually the second time 2 years ago, my story came in second again, always a bridesmaid. And Write Out Loud read it and did just a great job. I was blown away. And I believe it was the same person, Rachel, if she's still here. You did a great job with that story and a great job again today. It's really interesting. I write plays as well, and it always is very interesting to write a play and then give it away to a director and actors and see what they do, for better or worse. Write Out Loud, you did a tremendous job, and it's great to see someone take something and make something a little different from it. And if you work, and I've had the experience of working with really great actors and a great director, sometimes it'll just blow you away where they take it, and you see that that character is so much more multidimensional than the three I did, and I thought that they did all of them. Riveting reading, very expressive, and all I can say is thank you.
Yeah, this was my second time having my piece read by Write Out Loud also. Several years ago, there was a short story contest about Fahrenheit, whatever the Bradbury book is, I forget the number, 451. Anyway, Write Out Loud read my story for that one in the contest too, and both times it's extremely moving to hear it come to life in a way that you didn't even imagine as the author. When you see these characters take on this life and the reader finds new dimensions in the story and in the character. Like when my guy was reading mine, I was trying to film the thing with my cell phone, and I kind of got chills a couple times just hearing the emotion he put into it. And some of mine was inspired by when I went to 6th grade camp too. It was just absolutely terrifying. And so when he read like it was mildly traumatic just to go back to that time in the best kind of way, like the good kind of trauma. Excellent job to all the readers.
Yeah, I completely agree. What a fantastic job. It was, well, for me it was the first time that I heard someone reading my work, and it was such an honor and such a treat and such a gift. I was very emotional and touched and so mesmerized by all different emotions that that were put into that story, and it's like brought so much new life to it. And I was actually like, I was thinking like, oh, I want to know what's gonna happen. So I think it speaks for itself. I was so into like, as if it was a new story for me. Very beautiful, very touching, very moving. Thank you.
Well, I would have loved to have had them read my story. I would pay you money to read my story, because I'd like to hear your interpretation of my story too.
There's another question?
My question is, there's at least 2 authors on the stage who are multilingual, and I don't know about the rest of the group, but when you are writing and you are operating in a multilingual space, I guess my question is, what is added or what is lost when you are working in translation? Where are you thinking about writing, knowing that your work is going to be read or perceived in a different language, and how do you account for that?
In my case, I was not planning to get it translated and then published, so I was definitely not thinking about other languages while writing it in Polish, and then it came up in different things. So I think the biggest part of it was actually the title. So in Polish, the title was called After a Child's Game, and it's also a name of like animals. It's hares, or rabbits or hares, and it's basically this game of like playing the light with the mirror, and it was untranslatable. So we spent so much time with the translator, and she provided a few suggestions. I was like, oh, no. So eventually I landed on Hippity Hop for like this kind of playful, childish vibe, and something that is like magical and joyful and playful. But yeah, it turned out to be, yeah, like pretty important part of the story and really hard to translate. Since then I wrote a few other stories, and I noticed how not only the language, but also some of my stories were based in Poland and some even in communist times. So there were a lot of things that apparently like non-Polish readers were like, what is this, or why does it matter, or they were completely lost. But they were important to the story, and I still grapple with, like, I still try to figure out how to represent it, how to carry it through, how not to lose it, but also how to help the reader like move along the story and not get jarred with this, like, I don't know what this concept is right now.
Yeah, the original version of my story, actually, I wrote it in Spanish in a writers group that I'm in Mexico City. And so then I self-translated and had to adapt it, and you do the first round of translation, and then you read a bunch of good literature in English, and then go back to it and make it flow better. But even the original one in my first writers group, I got some complaints that it was too contemporary Mexican in the language I was using with that one. I might have had like a way you're a cabron or something in it. People were like, I'm just gonna say way 700 years from now, man. And so then I had to do the same thing with English, and I'm a translator as well, so whenever you're translating, you have to find a way to make the language, I mean, you're doing 2 things. You want it to feel like it was written in the language the person's reading, which kudos to your translators, fantastic job. So you want it to really feel like it was written in English in this case, but also transmit the sense of the original location, so something set in communist Poland or anywhere else. Trying to do both of those at once when you're translating is a monumental task to keep the flavor of the original place, but also make the language flow well. And if I ever need something translated from Polish, I'm going to look at your translator, because they did a fantastic job.
Questions? Other questions?
Hi, this isn't actually a question. Well, it hasn't. artistic director of Write Out Loud. And I just wanted to say how much fun it is for us to get these stories from the library and then be able to pick who we want to read them. And I have to tell you, the First Place story was very, very difficult for me. Fabulous story, just really hard, right? I raised 3 sons and it just got me. I really loved the playfulness of the story with the dragon. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Hippity Hop. I really loved the playfulness of that. And I also wanted to say the story, the other story, the Love Too Soon. Thank you so much. I'm so not together. I felt like it was the first chapter of a book, and I wanted to know what happened next. So you can tell us that in a minute, if that's not true. And then I just wanted you all to know, because Write Out Loud has been around for 15 years. We've always done the readings of these stories with the library. It's a great partnership. And if you are interested in other programming that we have, which ranges from preschool to people over 100 years old, our website, and if Walter already said this, I apologize, Walter. Okay. Our website is Write Out Loud, as WRITE, OutLoudSD.com, and you can sign up for the recorded stories that we send, and you can sign up to be on the list for all of our programming, or any of it. Thank you so much, and it's always such a pleasure to do this project.
Thank you. There's another question?
No answer to my question?
Do you want to tell us what happens next?
That's a good question, yeah.
I didn't intend it as the beginning of a novel. To be honest, I wanted to write a flash, just hearing flashback. I thought, I'm going to write a short little flash piece. And I just wanted to explore that moment, which I always found fascinating, when two people are together and maybe one's in love, maybe it's not the other. When do you say it? How do you, there's just this awkward. So I put one guy, there who was just wide open with his emotions. Hey, I love you, bam. And a person with a traumatized history and like, what is that? And I just, played to have fun with it. That being said, I do have in the back of my mind to write a series of short, connected pieces that would start with this, based in San Diego. So, yeah.
And thanks for your comment. I wrote my story before I had nephews, and I don't think I could have written it now that I have it'd be too rough. Or I would want senior that actually survive.
Yeah, because that one kid that you met, that you thought could do something better, he's an adult now.
Yeah. I hope he's done a lot better.
I am dying to know what the story was and what the plot was of the one that we did not hear.
For $9.95. It's an unusual story. I believe the library's going to put it up, unless I'm in
Yeah, so
a
the stories will
back
go
room
up
somewhere. It is the story of a writer who was in the spotlight one time in his life, and that spotlight is slowly diminishing as he gets older. And he has come to the conclusion that his books have lives. And he realizes that there are books that are what he calls the loud books. Those are the ones that are published. Those are the ones that people have bought. And then there are the quiet books, the books that he loved but never got the attention. And then there are the unborn books. And the unborn books would give anything to be a quiet book. And he comes to realize that the loud books, maybe no one's ever read them. Maybe they bought them. Maybe they were in libraries. Maybe people said, I love your work, and they get it, but they just gathered dust. And so as he's coming towards the end of his life, he's coming to the conclusion that his whole life was an original fiction. That he just invented who he was and was all of this worth it? And in the end, he has fallen in love with words. The only thing that matters is words. He loves phrases, he loves ellipses, he hates semicolons, and he's just typing away. And he no longer has paper and typewriter. He's just diminishing as a person. So it's this, super upbeat. But for anyone that is a writer, and for anyone that loves writing and has experienced probably the pain of writing, this is that evolution of a person's life as they go through and go, what have I produced? Is it real?
Another question? Yes.
What kind of readers do you read to get inspiration? Writers.
Me, I like to listen to 1940s radio dramas. That's where I get my inspiration.
I guess I don't have like one specific genre or author. I just like books which